One ring to rule them all, one ring to fight them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. Perhaps you know this verse. Probably you have watched Lord of the Rings, which became a famous series of film. But some people actually doesn't know that it was first a novel of books written by John Tolkien. He also wrote The Hobbit. Some people may think that Lord of the Rings is just a child story or anything like this, but actually it's a series of metaphor. Tolkien was a scholar and a translator and a linguist, a philologist. Philology is the knowledge that reunites history and structure in language. Having a vast knowledge of language and linguistics, Tolkien translated some ancient written works. One of his most famous translations was Beowulf. Beowulf is actually one of the most ancient manuscripts in Anglo-Saxon, the ancient language of England. So all this knowledge about history and ancient languages and archaic, obsolete languages lead Tolkien to build up his own scenarios, like Lord of the Rings, for example, and the Middle-earth. Some people may not relate Lord of the Rings to reality, but it can reference some aspects of the 20th century history, for example. Something really intriguing about Tolkien's career, it was that before being a teacher and before being a linguist, he was a soldier, and he served at the World War I. To be a soldier in 1916 at the First World War meant that Tolkien actually experienced a lot, he viewed a lot, he saw a lot into the warfare. The First World War was actually one of the first wars into the world that transformed entirely the 20th century. So it meant the weaponry was much more precise, was much more dangerous, and it has the capacity of killing massively. So we can analyze the Ring of Power, for example. The One Ring, the ring that rules all the rings of power and all characters and as much as it can. It's clear that the ring is a metaphor to power. A power that can corrupt us, a power that can corrupt humanity, humankind. But actually not only humankind, but all of the populations into the scenario of the story. So during the 20th century, the two main books of Tolkien were published. One is The Hobbit, and it was published in 1937. And the second most famous novel is Lord of the Rings, that was written during the World War II. Actually, two of his sons served also as soldiers in World War II, and it was published after, which means 1954. One of the most famous political views during these two main wars into 20th century was fascism. So what's the definition of fascism? A political philosophy, movement or regime that exalts nation and of the race above the individual, and that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition. A tendency toward or actual exercise of strong autocratic or dictatorial control. If we can compare the verse that is engraved in the ring, in the One Ring, we can conclude, comparing to the definition of fascism, that the ring is in itself a force and representation of fascist power. In the novel The Ring, the One Ring was created by Sauron, a dictator actually, that created the ring to dominate other folks, other ethnicities and other people. The German party had as supreme leader Hitler, Adolf Hitler, And the Italian fascism has a supreme leader, Benito Mussolini. Sauron is actually a metaphor for an autocratic supreme leader, as well as it happened in history. So think about it. The next time you want to watch a science fiction film or read a fantasy book, probably it's not just entertainment. Probably the person that made that fantasy just wants to say something into different words.